All right, everybody, welcome to episode number 14 of the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. My name is Nobody James, and this with me, as always, is Nobody John. So, John, first of all, welcome back to the podcast. I know you took a little bit of a trip this last week, but I want you to tell me what has been entertaining you this week.
What is in my waistline?
That's good. It's been entertaining you. What's been entertaining about your waistline?
Somehow I went on this trip, did not eat healthy, and went back down to 152. So
Hey, that's good. All right.
maybe it
Yes,
doesn't look like
that's
it.
that's the Wisconsin air. You bring it in just to put it back out. That's how I lost the weight. I
It's,
deflated like a tire once I got up here, right?
it's some barometric pressure thing. Is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is.
What's been entertaining me? You know, nothing really. Just spending time with friends and family. Played a little bit of this untitled goose game, with my wife, which was interesting. Um, she might be better at it than I am because you're an annoying goose who just messes with people. And she picked it up real quick. Natural goose, I'm telling you. Uh,
Naturally annoying.
yeah, I when we were driving back to Missouri, I was like, "Yeah, man, we should play that quack game." She's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "You know, oh yeah, it's a goose. We should play that honk game because that's what geese honk." So quack game should be duck game, which that duck game's pretty fun.
Well, I got the pleasure of watching you play that for a little bit. Obviously, the trip that you took was up here to Green Bay. You got to hang out with me and my family for a few days, and that was always a good time. But you downloaded
Felt
it
like it
while you
was
were
too
here.
short. Too short.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely planned a lot more than we actually got accomplished. I mean, the goal was to watch a couple movies, to watch an entire series of a show, to record a couple episodes of a podcast, but obviously life gets in the way, and with COVID and everybody being stuck at home, um, with homeschooling, my wife working from home, there just wasn't a lot of time to really be able to get as much done as what I wanted to do, but I still had a really good time. I appreciate you making the visit. And we got to jump into a few things that were entertaining, which one of which, like you were talking about, was the Untitled Goose Game, which I did not get to play it specifically, but it's basically just a puzzle game where you are a goose, and they just released a patch that or an update that allowed you to play co-op
Ooh.
and yeah, play as a team of geese trying to ensue stress and chaos into an ordinary world. So I watched you rip sunglass, or I'm sorry, actual uh, glasses off of a young boy's face, and then had to force him to rebuy them. I think it was, or it was his toy, or something along
No, as
those
the
lines.
objective was to give him like another pair of glasses, which we stole from a shopkeeper or borrowed. And then the task right after that was to make him buy something that he already owns. So I stole his model plane. I dropped it off in the shopkeeper. She picked it up, slapped this price tag on it, and then chaos ensued when he went to go pick up, and like, that's my plane. She was like, oh, you're gonna buy that, and he did. Little.
It's it's definitely a game I'm going to take a look at, and I think my daughters had a good time playing around with it, and I think that with a little bit of adult supervision, a little bit of guidance, they might be able to actually accomplish some of the tasks. Because I think they ended up playing in the basement with each other for a little while, and then they just got mad at each other because they didn't understand what they were supposed to be doing. Some of the puzzles were a little bit complicated, and I enjoyed seeing some of the solutions there. But
What'd you think of that board game?
what was it? Scythe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally, jumping into Scythe, for me, to give a brief description of it, and you might be able to do so a little bit better, is it is a mixture of Risk and Settlers of Catan in some capacity, as much as no one else agrees with me. It's a massive resources game. That's the goal of the game, is to build your wealth and to build resources to gain wealth while also attacking and defending and trying to increase your growth and your you know global takeover. So that's the risk side, and again, the resources is the Settlers of Catan side. Um, as far as my opinion of it, I will just say this about board games. I absolutely hate learning board games, but this one, knowing you were coming to town and knowing that this was a big deal for you, you put a lot of money into this. I did a
Don't
little.
say that. Don't.
Okay,
She doesn't need to know. She
put an
doesn't.
exuberant. She doesn't watch this. Put an exuberant amount of money, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I'm kidding, but probably true. Um, into this board game, but I did watch a few of the videos to kind of teach me, so I was able to learn at a little bit of a quicker pace. I actually paid attention to the rules, and I think for the most part, it's a little bit confusing, but once you play around, you get the idea. Um, but the idea of it was entertaining, interesting, and it kept me entertained. I really did enjoy the game overall. I thought it was a nice competitive spin, and I had a really good time with it. I think the income outcome overall opinion is, as a person that doesn't particularly love board games, it's one that if you invest the time and the effort, you can pick up a good strategy and really go from there. What did you think of the board game, having played it for a second time, I do believe?
Yeah, second time. I absolutely love it. I really, so I thought we were all going to work together a little bit more in the end to take out John, your brother-in-law. Um, so
I made an effort.
I kind of screwed myself at potentially taking the lead from him point wise. I could have done one more swing in production and got another star for having the most people out on the play. Potentially could have put my points up there a little further. I don't know how well it would have done, but at least it would have been something. Um, I absolutely enjoy the game. Besides the drama that ensues from your brother-in-law and his wife, adds its own element. Okay, it adds its own element, but I absolutely love the game. I really want to crack open those expansion packs, which I purchased. I would like to get a couple of more uh, vanilla plays under my belt, but being COVID, it's a little hard to do. While you were talking about the game, I was like, man, you know what? I really did enjoy playing that with James. What's the digital edition cost? Uh, $20. So the digital version of the board game is $20, and it looks like the expansion can be had with the original game for 25. So there's that.
Wait, $25 you get the main game and the expansions?
One of the expansions, yeah. I don't know if
Uh,
I don't think they have everything.
See, I would absolutely go for the main game, and I would play that with you. I was just sitting there thinking because the whole time you were here, I was like, man, I'd love to play another round of that. Because for me, at least, any round one of a board game is going to be a complete wash. I'm playing to learn. The score, the points, the money, the strategy is not there for me in any way, shape, or form. I need to get the first play under my belt so I even have a semblance of an idea of what I'm doing. Uh, or I am just spinning my tires and trying to figure it out along the way. So
Well, I just
I
sent
would
that
love.
to you in Steam.
I'll take a look at it. I think it's like I said, it's something I would definitely like to get my bearings on a little bit more, and I'd love to play another round. Like I said, the whole time you're here, I was itching to play another round. I just didn't want to necessarily add that to our plates, considering we already had so much to try to do. Um, but we were able to jump into a few video games and things like that. We actually had some fun. But I agree with you overall on the trip. I think it would have been nice to be able to a little bit more um, involved in the entertainment side of things. We got to watch a couple episodes of television, which I was very much enjoying the show overall. I think it would have been nice if you had been here a little longer. We could have stretched that out and plugged a few more episodes in here and there. Are you even going to be able to jump back into the show Raised by Wolves on HBO? You don't have access to that, do you?
No, I don't pay for that. Maybe I will. I'll have to pony up for something.
Well, spoilers, I could always give you my information. You could jump in and watch the rest of the show, and that's something that we could potentially talk about moving forward.
And here's some more information. Apparently, Scythe is mobile edition and it's cross-platform.
Cross-platform with PC or cross-platform with like Apple and Android.
It doesn't say. It literally says you can now enjoy your favorite strategy board game on your smartphone. Scythe Mobile is also cross-platform. You will be able to play with anyone regardless of the device. So I'm assuming across the board.
Well, it's definitely something I would look into. and I'd be interested in playing. We would need to get a third and possibly a fourth involved. I don't know that I would want to play it one on one. I just think that would take away from some of the entertainment value. But if we were able to maybe pick it up, I would even purchase it for someone like our friend, as we've talked with and had on our podcast before, Steven. Or
He can't even get him to play Vermintide 2. So I don't know.
I can't even get him to play Left 4 Dead, and it was his idea,
That's true. He like played one round. I got a leg cramp playing that game. The position I was in.
which is fair enough. Do you want to talk a little bit about Raised by Wolves?
Raised by Wolves? Yeah, I guess we could. Um, so it is a Geiger series, right? No, no.
Ridley Scott,
Ridley Scott. It's Ridley Scott.
who had designed the look for the aliens in Ridley Scott's Alien. So that's where you got the Geiger idea.
Yeah. Um, so overall, I think it's an interesting show. I think it's an interesting concept. I do like the digs they do on, I want to say, the Catholic Church. It could be another. Oh, and the fact that they're sun worshippers because they're all like praise Sol, which Sol is our star here in our little solar system, which I think is hilarious. And their shields and everything else have stars. I do like the android aspect. I find it kind of odd, like I mean, like, can we do spoilers? Is that going to be okay?
Yeah, but before we do that, we should probably break down a little bit of what the show is, because to
Okay.
me, and to do a brief synopsis of it, again, it's an HBO exclusive. It came out this year, just a couple months back, directed and created by Ridley Scott, or at least the first couple of episodes are directed by Ridley Scott. A couple of the episodes are directed by his son, and it's a show basically about androids or cybernetic organisms that are tasked with uh, displacing and raising the human race, which is young children. They birth them and then attempt to raise them on a foreign planet, and they are coping with the dangers and perils that ensue. And that does come with invaders of alien species, of the last of the human species, other androids, things along those lines. I think that's just a base overview. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess we could call that a base overview.
If you have anything to add, by all means, I'll kick it to you.
Well, I mean, Earth is a trash heap caused by war. As far as we know, maybe different religious factions and atheists. Maybe even atheists could be called another religion in this. Maybe the devotion to science. They use that as a form of religion. But Earth is a trash heap, and so um, the primary factions that we can tell of are these soul worshippers, um, and their ark that they built. But the androids get there first because they don't need life support because they're not alive, and neither are the embryos that they take with them until they spin them up and stuff like that. So they're there first, and they have 12-year leap over regular people. Um, so I mean, like I would add that to the field of what the film's about. So
Sure.
as basic stuff. And I can go into more detail if that's all right.
Well,
Talk
well,
about what pisses me off.
sure. I'd like to actually hear that because, again, we're going to go into a little bit of spoilers. And like I said, we only watched the first two episodes together, both of which were directed by Ridley Scott. One of the things that is a big factor for me is the first episode was right next to an hour, which is, half of the length of a full feature length film. The second episode was about 45, 47 minutes, which obviously is more of a truncated television show length. And there was a massive dip for me from episode 1 to 2 in the cinematic quality and the artistic cinematography, the shot composition, everything. And I'm not trying to sound like a hoity-toity, asshat or whatever the case is here, but I like Ridley Scott's nature. I like his his eye for film, and I've really enjoyed a lot of his movies. Even the obviously the Alien movie. and then his I'm blanking on the name. What is the name of his movies later on? Covenant, um, with the androids and the beginning of the xenomorph.
Yeah, it's Covenant. What do you?
What the second one is Covenant? What's the actual first one called?
Prometheus.
Prometheus. Thank you. I
Was I?
Prometheus itself, not the best movie in the world, but I like the shots. I like the idea. I like his angle on science fiction. But I did see a massive step down in the second episode. It felt just like phoning it in, even after one episode. He put all of his effort into episode one, and his second episode was like, let's just get this made so I can move on out. That's just how it felt. But that's the number one thing that really kind of frustrated me. But I'll let you go into more. I know you have a lot more, for lack of a better phrase, nerdy aspect on it. So dig into that sci-fi a little deeper.
Yeah, and it's gonna be hard for me to split the two because we kind of watched them back to back. I do
Yeah,
feel like the first episode, um, for me was a maybe it's because it was new to us, but it was definitely a lot more. I don't know. I was enthralled. Let's put it that way.
sure.
I didn't know the time was passing. So I've got a few things that I have questions about. Maybe they'll get answered later. Maybe they're points that are going to be washed over because sometimes they forget about little candy items they put in there. So the first episode, there's that hole, and it has
Yep.
spiral cuts in it, and I'm assuming that's some kind of drill that that took that down. So maybe we're gonna have another sentient life form, maybe even humans or other androids that got there before the rest of these people did. But I would like them to keep on going with that because when we saw, and I think it was the second season, the hole looked a little different, and I think that maybe they'll try to like negate those spiral cuts in the edges and not expand upon what that might have been. Um, I am hoping that there are other Android atheist populations that got off with their children. Maybe not on this world, maybe on different worlds. And I'm hoping there are more humans that got off. Spoiler alert, in the second episode, a lot of shit happened. There were these crawler creatures that were on the planet that somehow they didn't know, even with all their science stuff. Maybe they're demons, and maybe you should listen to God or soul or whatever. Um, Secondly, they murder the android. I think these androids with their head popping capabilities, I don't know if it's a sonic beam or something. Anyhow, just wiped out pretty much the rest of the human race as far as the story gives you information now. So
It definitely
that pissed me off.
leans into a little bit of the anime um, expectation or art style, in the sense that there's just supernatural abilities in play that you may not fully understand or not need to understand, or they don't allow you to understand because
I need to because we still have okay. So one, we've got FTL in this universe. Okay, faster than light travel makes
sure.
sense. Makes sense. At least I feel like it's FTL. They said that they couldn't sustain life support and make it there in XYZ time. So I don't know how far away this planet is, but 12 years is a long time. It's not that long if you can do faster than light travel. Secondly, I think they're still using projectile weapons. Is that fair to say? The humans?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So now we have like a flying robot that has some kind of sonic weapon or mind bursting abilities, like instantly radiate.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
at
radiation.
the very least, it's psionic. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe it's some kind of like radiation blast or something like that.
possible.
But on a technology scale that is above projectile weapons. Projectile weapons, excuse me for all those gun lovers, have their place in the future, okay? But I'm just assuming that if you can
But not in
have,
the past, not in the present. We're done with them.
we're done with them. But I mean, like, clearly we have faster light travel. We've got shape shifting flying androids that have healing abilities or body armor and some radiation sonic blasts. And
Built-in body armor. It's almost like it chips away at their outer shell, but then that's regenerative because it's almost like it eats it away whenever she morphs into that like bronze or gold
yeah.
being. I don't know.
So
It's
I
a
feel like
trippy
there's a
ass show. I'll be
technology,
honest.
and maybe that's how it works though. honestly. Like the soul worshiping people, they have androids, but they are not on this class whatsoever. I mean, like whatsoever. So maybe that's the deal. Like people that worship science or are science only don't have the religious aspect. I mean, like maybe they are superior, but again, they didn't really survive Earth or what we know of it. So I don't know. There's questions that need answers, Ridley,
Sure,
Mr.
sure. And
Scott.
to be fair, we've watched 20% of the show. I think it's something that we need to delve into
Close
a
the
little
book.
bit.
Done with it.
Yeah, we're over. No, you need to get back in there. I think it's something that, from what I understand, the payoff is good. It continues on with the mythos. I do need, if any, the second episode's any basis, I needed to pick up a little bit. The first episode I really enjoyed. I would probably put it at least on the good scale for us. Like out of our five, I would rank it at least good. Um, Second episode did drop it down, but I think it still stays in that good category. I'd give it a couple more episodes before I say it's any worse than that or any better than that. Um, but to transition
Wait, hold
from
on.
race,
Are we going to talk about that brat and how he was praying? What gave him the idea to pray?
I think it's human instincts, man. I think that's what it's driving at. Is religion
Ingrained in us. It's
Yeah,
inside
is
of.
religion ingrained in us, or is it taught, or is it hereditary? You don't know. You don't know.
Or
And
is it
we'll have to watch
real?
more to find out. Did you get caught up on the boys, or are you still behind an episode?
I'm behind. Don't even talk about it. Don't even talk about it. Madison and I got here, ate food, and I was like, I drove for 12 hours. I'm
So I
going to
can't.
bed.
So I can't tell you that there's a sci-fi element now where
No,
more
you, no, you have to wait.
a
We're gonna
whole
knock out
nother
two
a
tomorrow.
whole nother X-Men style group of superheroes show up and attempt to fight off the boys and the
I
Seven.
gotta go watch this. See ya.
That might be a joke.
Click.
So we won't go into that, but you know what we can go into?
Each
Ultimate
other.
Chicken Horse.
Oh, okay.
This is real quick and simple, and I think we can touch on this. But this is a game that you and I personally have actually enjoyed for some time. This is a game that was released originally on the PC and the Steam shop, I do believe, and it was released on March 4th of 2016. Developed and published by Clever Endeavor Games. Um, tell our minimal audience about what Ultimate Chicken Horse is.
Well, honestly, I picked it up on Linux back in the day as one of those couch games. It offered shared or split screen, however you want to see it, shared screen as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, you have these avatars, they're animals, and you start off with a couple different worlds, and basically you get into the level, the object of the level is get from point A to point B, but there are obstacles, environmental obstacles, whether it be the distance between two buildings or a combine at the bottom between a farm and a silo. But your object is to get
Two
objects in
two
this
D
box.
2D side-scrolling platform.
That's true, yes. Anyway, you get this box at the beginning of the party box, and you get items you can pick up. Some of them are hindrance. It could be a crossbow, firing a bolt. They could be a door,
Flamethrower, flaming
flamethrower.
baseballs.
hmm A black hole, for instance. Some of these objects are to hinder people from getting to point A to point B. Other objects could be a plank of wood, a Ferris wheel, something to help you get across to the other side. And it's really a fun game to play with people around you. It's definitely frustrating. It can get super frustrating because everybody can make it so difficult that nobody can get to the end, and then somebody's going to have to get a bomb and erase some things, you know. So it's a give and take game, but it is definitely fun. A cool aspect that I appreciate is that you have to go to levels and get maybe something out of that level before you can unlock a new character or unlock.
Tons of unlockables. Yeah,
Yeah.
you unlock new characters, unlock levels, you unlock clothing. That's something that we actually just hit up on this last time that we played. This has been a go-to party game or group game or local game that I've gotten into. I've played it with my daughters for years now, actually, on and off. They're not very good at it, so it's kind of frustrating to play with them because they want me to make the levels as easy as humanly possible. They don't care about the competitive side as much as they just want to be able to play and win. Um, all of us, like they want us all to complete the levels, whereas you get a little bit more competitive in your play which obviously I appreciate. Um, and I want a little bit of a challenge in the sense that you are the kind of person that like will get an early lead in the score because it's you play the same level over and over and over, probably 10 times or something along those lines. At the beginning, it's a randomized box of options that you can select as each player gets to choose an obstacle or um, like you said, a hindrance, a weapon, something like that that they get to place in the level. So then you could easily just make a platform from point A to point B and just walk your way across. But then you introduce, like you said, crossbows, hockey players throwing hockey pucks. Like you said, black holes, honey on the stages, ice on the stages. There's
Spikes.
so many different opportunities, exactly, and it's an amazing party. It's something that me personally, I never really find myself growing tired of. It's something I can probably play for an hour or two at a time. It's not something I necessarily will want to put on for a 24-hour period or go back to day after day after day after day. But I enjoy it just as much playing on this last visit that we had together as I did the first time I ever played the game. And I've at this point picked it up on, PC, PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Switch. So I've bought 3 copies of the game, and I think you can get it for somewhere in the ballpark of like $10,
Yeah.
which is a steal, and it's a perfect game for that.
Well, I think something that they have going for them is the randomized items that come into the box. That helps keep the game interesting, and also the fact that different people you play with every every time will pick different places for things or different obstacles and lay them out. So there's a huge randomization that goes on depending on who you play, how they are willing to play, and what's presented to you in the box. And then if you're competitive, you're always going to have a challenge. So I feel like it's got playability over and over and over again. It's got that replay effect. Um, so it is definitely a great party game.
Well, if it means anything, it's 14.99 on Steam, and it currently holds a 10 out of 10 on Steam reviews. The only thing I would personally put out there, considering the game is 4.5 years old at this point, I would say that 14.99 is a pretty steep price point. But I know you can pick this game up on Steam sales and things along the way for as low as $2 to $3 to $5 at the very very most. Um, and I think in that sense, it's worth every penny. I personally think it's worth the full $15, knowing what the game is. And if I had access to a group of 4 people at all times, I'd say it's worth 30, 40, $50. I think it's a phenomenal game. The user interaction and being able to develop levels means your opportunities are endless as well. So it's amazing. I think it's amazing. It's goofy, it's fun, and it's probably the best party game I think I personally have ever played. I think it's a riotous good time.
Wasn't
It's
there an
Gaga.
was it is
Gaga.
Gaga. Is there an expansion? Well, I mean, like they gave it 10 out of 10. I mean, come on. Isn't there
It's amazing.
a what is it? Isn't there an expansion for it? I don't think I have that expansion.
To my knowledge, there's nothing aggressive.
Wasn't there a
Uh,
snake or something like that?
well, I mean, you
Maybe
have
it's just
different
an advertisement.
add all DLC for 9.99, but I don't know what that exactly includes. It looks like a vinyl record. Oh, that's the
The
soundtrack.
soundtrack?
Yeah, yeah, it's a hard pass for me.
That soundtrack's not that bad.
It's not bad, but I'm not gonna spend $10 on it.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a multiplayer pack bundle, but I think that's something that I already own. So just to buy the game as a whole, I think you're only looking at $15.
Yeah, 15 bucks, what it looks like. And the only DLC for purchasing is. Oh, and here's another thing that I just saw now because we're watching the game or on Steam is that they do um, additions, levels, characters, and cool stuff every season. So right now, last season was Happy Easter, and so they did Happy Easter weekend. 15 of your levels are now featured as Easter levels. I'm just looking at now. Send us your spooky levels. Get your spooky levels featured in Ultimate Chicken Horse. So what they do is they have also community-based games and levels that you can play in there. When this game first came out, there wasn't as many levels to play. And so the community generated ones, the community curated ones were definitely up there on what you would play. And I played a lot of those good levels. But yeah, this just came out today. Get Your Spooky Levels featured an Ultimate Chicken Horse, and that came out uh, today. Says Spooktober is here. So I think that is great. Um,
That's just another glowing recommendation. Is the operators, the developers are paying close attention to the community, and they're releasing consistent updates and upgrades, and
like
it's
you
just
said,
something that's been
four and a
ongoing.
half years old,
Yeah.
and got new content, and they're still putting out stuff, and I think that's great. That is awesome. That's the longevity of a $15 game. I definitely say that it is worth the 15 bucks for sure.
Well, fair enough. So we'll put a pin in the Ultimate Chicken Horse. We're putting a gaga on that. I like I said, I fully believe that it is an amazing game. And I'm going to jump into something real quick that I don't know if you have seen, but I think that you would have interest in seeing. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. Have you heard of and/or seen a movie called Blue Ruin?
I have not. I continue.
All right. So, Blue Ruin is a film that was released back in 2013, May 17th of 2013 to be exact. It's directed by a man named Jeremy Solner. I'm going to say his name is. It's also written by Jeremy Solner. Does that name mean anything to you?
It doesn't.
It will. This is written and directed by the same guy that wrote and directed Green Room.
Okay, I do appreciate Green Room.
Obviously, it's a great movie. It's one actually we ranked, I believe, Gaga, and we had a conversation about it a little while back. So that's what's inspired me to watch this movie. Blue Ruin is something that was released, like I said, I think 3 years before Green Room was. I didn't know too much about this movie going in, other than the fact that I love Green Room. I think it's almost a perfect movie for what it is, obviously, and the aggression and the violence and everything included in Green Room is also to be found inside this movie specifically, although this storyline is a little bit simpler. To give a brief synopsis, it's about and this is all from me, I'm actually looking at Wikipedia right now, but I'm not reading from it, but it's basically a homeless man who lives in his car, finds out that the man that killed his parents is released from prison. So he embarks on a journey to seek revenge and then in turn causes a whole cavalcade of actions and reactions and onslaught of violence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a movie that was a budget of 420,000. Box office was
Hey,
all right. So synopsis: Blue Ruin. Uh, Basically, to give a brief detail of the synopsis, it's based on a guy who is homeless, living inside of his car, and he finds out that his parents' murderers are released from prison. So he decides to exact revenge, and then in that process creates a whole cavalcade of, I don't know, onslaught, negativity, all this fun stuff that he then gets to combat and kind of come back from. And it's just that storyline based on that. He's a homeless man that gets to fight back against his wrongdoers who then retaliate, and then he has to retaliate. It's kind of just a base understanding of the storyline.
so is this like a
It's
poor Batman?
not he's definitely not equipped in any way, shape, or form. He is what you would expect a homeless man to be. He is played by somebody that I don't think that you would be familiar with by name, but once you saw him you would understand who he was. His name is Macon Blair, and he plays what would essentially be the club manager in Green Room. He's the guy that earns his red strings or red laces, I think is what they
Hmm.
call, and he's spoilers for Green Room. He's the guy that survives. They just let walk away into the woods at the end. You know, the one
Macon
that says
Bear?
Macon Blair, Blair.
Uh,
When you see him, you'll be like, "Oh, it's that guy." And I've actually seen him in a couple of other movies. And this guy that directs the movie is Jeremy Solner or Solnier. It's he directs one other movie called Murder Party that I have yet to see, but I think it was back in 2007, and it actually inspires me to go back and see it.
yeah, 'cause he's
Um,
got two chainsaws, looks like.
yeah, yeah. I think it's more of a comedy, more of like a dark comedy than what these movies are because they're just a straightforward drama. I don't even know what you would classify them as because they're not horror, but there are horror elements. They're suspense thrillers, maybe, I think is what you would say. Um, but just as it stands, I think this movie specifically is something that you would appreciate. I think you would really enjoy this movie. I think if I were to rank it on our scale, I would give it a great. I don't know if I would go quite to Gaga just because it is a little short and the tone is perfect but slow. So if I think it nails exactly what it is looking for and what it wants to be. The ending leaves a little bit to be desired, in my opinion. I don't know that it ends in a way that I'm upset with, but it ends in a way that I think is just a little bit on the unbelievable side. I think if it went a little bit more ambiguous or even depressing, I think it could have been better, but it does tie things up a little bit neater than what I wanted them to be based on what this movie was. So I think it's something that you should jump into. I think that you would enjoy it. Um, and that's where I stand on Blue Ruin. I do like that these naming conventions, Blue Ruin, Green Room, and I'd like to see them continue on with that aspect because you get a lot of the color blue in this movie based on the sunsets and the vehicle he drives and the overall tint of the film. And in Green Room, you get a little bit more of a green tint, and you get the green room itself, and so on. So I like that
That's really
color.
cool. Yeah.
I do like that that's his focus. So I think it's a movie that you should actually put on your list and you should check it out. I think you'd enjoy it.
I just added it to my watch list. So,
Yeah, I think you'll, like I said, it's only an hour and a half, not a big buy-in, but it's entertaining enough and short enough that it'll keep you moving. And I think that you're not going to like it as much as Green Room, but I think that you will agree that it is a nice preamble to something like that. What else has been entertaining you this week, John?
well, I'm finally gonna mount that car charger. Well, I just got back, man. Get off my back. Maybe, maybe even I'll wash the side of my house. I'm not gonna power wash it like some plebe, but
You're going to be out there scrubbing it with a sponge.
yeah, get a ladder, wipe it out. I don't think you can. Can you use bleach on siding? Is that a thing on like vinyl siding?
Figure it out.
I don't.
You're the
Yeah.
only person that could find out, right?
Well, I could try it without looking at it, but I'm pretty sure I'll look it up first because I don't need my siding to become brittle and be like, there's another expense right
Just
there.
slowly chips away, then you have to replace it.
Yep. No, it's getting a little cooler, so I think I could make it an avid habit of riding my bike back to work. I do know that I will need a new front tire because after our trip through the Katy Trail, it was looking like she needed some love. So I'll probably have to get that. The back tire, I had got a new one before we went on the trail, and it looks to be holding up. One of them Nazi tires, those Continental tires. So um, there's a little background story. They had just admitted their role and how they profited from Nazi era contributions. And so it was a big deal because other companies have already done it. Like Volkswagen and Porsche was like, yeah, we used slave labor back in those days and we did deliver parts and stuff for the Nazi war machine. Continental's like, we ain't know nothing about no Nazis. And I mean, it's a tire company. And we all know, like, if you lived in Eastern and Central Europe and you were still alive, you were a Nazi. I mean, let's get down to it. You weren't in a concentration camp and you didn't flee to anywhere else.
You were killing some.
Yeah, okay, Heil. Yeah, Sieg Heil. So I mean, it is what it is. Um, so yeah, that's not something that is entertaining me, but that's something that will be entertaining me as I get these Apple knees back. You know, the muscle portion that goes right above your knee. I call it the Apple knee.
Just from our bike trip specifically, I lost, and I talked about this previously, but I lost feeling in like these two fingers based on the way I was gripping the bike handles and for how long we were gripping it. And then just over the last couple of weeks, I noticed that I have feeling back in these fingers.
Oh, you
It took,
lost it for a long period of time?
yeah, yeah, it took that long for me to actually heal. I must have damaged a nerve in my hand that shut down the feeling to those fingers. I must have
It's a
pinched it to the
safety
point.
protocol. He's not gonna hold the handlebar if you keep on feeling pain. Shut it off.
It must have been the case because it felt numb, and even now when I squeeze
God damn it. We're good.
All I was saying was I was working on getting the feeling back in this little finger right here. It's already back to mostly good. I'm still feeling a little bit of numbness, but the moral of the story is don't ride 258 miles unless you've trained your pinky to deal with the stress of holding a handlebar.
That's not something I took into consideration when we were going on a bike ride. Actually, I was thoroughly surprised that I made it with such ease because, as you know, when we were riding the bike and we came up to the 120-mile mark or whatever it was, I was like, "We're almost done,
Yeah.
James."
Oh,
You're
we only got
like,
130 more miles to go. I don't know what
you,
you're talking about. You're like, oh shit, we're only halfway done.
yeah, you look at me with the dumbfounded look like you're an idiot.
You
What
didn't
did you
look this
sign up
up at all.
for? Who did I bring with me on this trip?
You did it. You handled it fantastically. Um,
Let me do a review. So I've been playing Shadow of War.
don't even. I don't even want to talk about it right now. We're not gonna talk about that game again until you finish the motherfucker.
And
I'm
like here
tired. It's been like what is this episode 14? So we're at 4, 8, 12. So 3.5 months you've
have
been
you beat
playing
the
the
game?
same game. I gave up on it. I admitted I didn't like it and I moved on. And you see everything that I've accomplished. I beat 5 games since then.
I just need to play it more often. That's all there
You
is
just
to
need
it.
to accept the fact that you don't like the game.
I do like the game and I will beat it.
We're not talking about it. I'm moving on.
Okay.
Uh, the last game that we'll give a quick overall impressions, just a real quick overall impressions on, and it's a game that you and I have actually been playing. It's Wolfenstein Youngblood. This is a game that was released on essentially everything on November 19th of 2019, and I did not realize it was that recently. I know you're a huge Wolfenstein fan. You're not a huge
I
Wolfenstein
wouldn't
fan?
say huge. I haven't beaten or played all the games, but I do enjoy the genre. I mean, I'm who isn't a fan of like listening to German while they're mowing down? I mean, you can mow down Nazis. I mean, whatever. But no, like I think the genre is a really cool genre. I mean, it's first person, but it's good. Let's leave it at that, okay?
I personally, outside of the Wolfenstein, uh, the new games, I've only played the first person. I'm sorry, the more recent Wolfenstein, the new Colossus. Is that the second one?
Yeah.
I think that it is. Yeah, okay. Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. I played through a good chunk of that. I completely beat the new Wolfenstein 1, whatever it was called. I didn't play the New Order or maybe the new. I'm getting them all mixed up at this point. I'm sorry. Either way,
What about Old Blood?
if that's the expansion, no, I didn't play that.
No, that's the one where it's like definitely 1940s, not based in the 80s or 70s or future. So
Well,
it's standalone.
now you've inspired me to look him up.
Look it up, look it up.
So as I will look this up, Wolfenstein. So yeah, New Order was 2014, which I played through the entirety of that game. The Old Blood is the expansion of that, which was released in 2015, and I did not play that. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus was in 2017, and I played through a good chunk of it. And then Youngblood, you and I are currently playing through, which is 2019. They had the Wolfenstein 2009, and then all the way back to 1981 with Castle Wolfenstein, 1984 with Beyond Castle Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein 3D was in 92. Those games I haven't played any more of than what I've experienced. Like tonight, for instance, we found an arcade cabinet in the game, and I dabbled in it, and I'm not sure which one I actually played, but I played through some of those, and they're like the old Doom games. But um, playing through Youngblood, you play as BJ Blazkowicz's two daughters, and I think you are actually sent out to try to find him.
I don't think we were sent as so much as we um, stole an FBI vehicle with one of our friends and went to go find our father, our Faja.
And that's what we're doing. I will say that based on what I've played of this game so far, I'm enjoying it. I'm glad that I I think we're like 4.5, maybe 5 hours in so far.
Oh, really?
Playing that based on the Steam clock, yes. Which I was kind of surprised about, but maybe that's including pause time. Yeah, we're 5.5 hours in, but I think that is including the pause time because right now I still have it loaded in the background. And last I looked, we were at about 4.5, so I think it's growing from there. So maybe only 3.5 hours into the game.
I'm gonna look at mine and see where I'm at.
Yeah, you've been closing down as you go, which is fine.
2.8, 2.8
So
hours.
about 3 hours. So yeah, we're about 3 hours into the game. Um, and I'm glad that we played through that tonight before I wanted to put my impressions on this because going into tonight, I was absolutely in love with this game. I like that what it does with the environment. I like what it does with the upgrades. They're minimal, not game changing, but enough to keep you interested in finding the collectibles and growing your character, building into your weapons and upgrading and making them more powerful, more exciting, and different. But then tonight we had a couple interactions where we had some enemies respawning, monster closets in the front and behind. So if we fell too far forward, the ones behind us would, respawn. So then we would have to fall back because the ones ahead were too strong. We'd fall back and fight the weak ones, and then we'd fall forward again, and all of them would respawn. And it was just a very frustrating roulette of being overwhelmed. Um, I didn't love that aspect of it. Character wise, what I've experienced, I think that they're a little too over the top, a little too hokey, but I think that's maybe the Wolfenstein mentality. I think it kind of walks the line between being
Serious and
as,
campy.
yeah, historically accurate. I know it's a Nazi occupied future, but it is the idea of that brought into a present day or as a more present day than what I think it's still in the 80s or something like that, right?
Hmm.
So um but this one kind of leans a little bit more into your characters being almost cartoon characters, and I think that's fine. But I do like, again, to go back into the positives. I like the super jumps, like the double jumps that you pick up. I like the stealth abilities. I like the RPG elements that they added into the game so far. But again, as it stands, I'm thinking it's probably just a good game, just based on the frustrations that I ran into tonight. But obviously, we need to play through some more of it to get a real feel for it. How are you feeling?
Well, so far I really like the game. I had it glitch on me one time where I got stuck on that bulkhead outside the Zeppelin, but so what really impresses me is the dynamic melee animations, so to speak. They're not necessarily animations, but portions of it are animated. So depending on what kind of jump you get on the enemy, depends on what the person does, like your character and the enemy. And tonight I went on to that commandant or Gruppenführer. I don't know what he was, but and he just had a pistol, and I did not get a very good jump at him, but I ran at him and hit the melee button, and I was able to. He raised his gun. My character grabs the gun, and he's able to get off a couple of rounds while I'm trying to wrestle the gun down. I lost significant amount of health during that interaction, and I was like, "That's pretty cool," because I know other first-person games and other games, if I can slap B or right click and I hit you with melee, like I'm taking that person out. There's no defense that the deal has or block. So the dynamic melee attribute I really find impressive. Now, I am a little bit annoyed about the whole respawn of the enemy. I think that it's definitely necessary where we're at. I think it could have been executed a little better because of what I think they might be trying to do is the fact that we are in occupied territory. We are outnumbered. It's not like a base to base deal. We're infiltrating them. So they're going to send in reinforcements to the areas we cleared to reinforce those. I
Yeah,
would
but
I
they
would
they
expect them
literally
not to have.
spawn right in front of you.
I know
Like I'm
that's what I'm saying.
standing there,
They
turn
came out of a
around.
different room. Yeah, and they're there.
No, not even that. Like I'm staring at nothing, and then there's five people that just appear right in front of me.
They should have had like a rooms or areas where they come out of, and I think that they should increase. So like you have like it forces you to for always forward progression because I think that they should either increased the number of units behind you or increased the severity of their damage and stuff like that. That way, it's not that they replace the troops that were removed from you, like cleaning out a zone to reinforce it, but they increase. Like, okay, those forces got wiped out. We need to reassure, regroup, and fortify. And so change maybe aspects of the world and the enemy troops that you encounter. Clearly, they didn't do that, but I think maybe that was their intent. You're in occupied territory. The people are execution. Didn't It hasn't worked out yet in the levels that we were in, but I think maybe that's what they were going for.
Like you said, if there are even reasons, for instance, they have sections where drones are being released out of,
Those
um,
tube things,
yeah, some I don't know,
spires.
depositories or whatever. Yeah, some spires. So that would make some sense because they have an endless supply, and that would make some sense. But literally, it's to the point where you, I'm in a section that we cleared out. You went off to check out this other area, and coming back, you tripped an invisible line that caused them to respawn, but put them back in right with me. And
Yep.
I think that that whole idea is just straight bullshit. I understand why it's there in the sense that you try to push forward, you're under ranked, so there is a leveling, a progression system. So we're currently in the 14 to 16 range on our leveling, and that's all well and good, but it doesn't change the fact that I don't want to have to grind to be able to beat the mission that we're on. I think it should just be better paced. Either that or we're just generally playing the game wrong. Maybe we should be trying to stealth our way through this so we don't have to fight these enemies, so that way we can complete our mission and then move on and then potentially come back and accomplish other parts of the mission. But that is yet to be determined.
Well, there is a huge stealth aspect of this game, and maybe that's what we're missing.
And that's something that we have to determine along the way. Again, we're very early on. I just looked it up, and from what it says, is all play styles and average is about a 12-hour campaign, and a leisure all play styles average is a 31-hour campaign. So this could take us anywhere from between 8 and 31 hours. I think we're probably going to fall in that middle range, but I am enjoying the exploration. I do like that part of it.
Okay. And I'm going to pause you.
All right, so with that being said, that was our thoughts and opinions on Wolfenstein Youngblood. But we're going to move on to our favorite games of all time. John, do you have a favorite game of all time for us today?
So I was thinking about this, um, and honestly, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but I played it a lot. I think I mentioned it earlier. This is still going to go retro on this one, and it's Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. Um, it didn't have the greatest graphics. It was literally like a bunch of triangles that were strapped together with some other, I don't even know what you were. I mean, I think it was just triangles on, yeah, it's just a bunch of triangles together. Anyhow, it maybe it didn't blow me away, but I thought it was really cool going from 2D worlds to this automatic like 3D kind of looking world. And I actually didn't play StarCraft. Um,
Star Fox.
yeah, sorry, Star Fox on the Super Nintendo quite some time until after it was already out. Just because it was like its own title to begin with, and so I didn't really do much with it. But I think the combat in it, like and running through the worlds themselves, I found it as a difficult game. I really did, and I don't know if it was this transition from 2D to 3D that really took it for a spin. But I played that game. I mean, I currently don't have it anymore, but I probably played that game like 20 times or more, just like sitting in there like I've got to beat this level. I've got to beat this level. I found it really difficult. I really enjoy like, hey, you're constantly moving and you've got to go between obstacles and then fight these guys that are coming at you. Um, I don't know. I think I don't. I know it wasn't. It probably wasn't the first of its kind, but for me it was, and it was this whole new awakening into there's something new and cool and crazy. And this is before 64 PlayStation, but it was. I mean, they had better detail graphics, but it was definitely that transition. Like, hey, we're going 2D to 3D, and I was just blown away. So,
Sure.
and
I would
then
say,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and like that game on itself did, I think, fairly well because then they created, Star Fox on the 64, and that game is also a great game.
Yep. My first introduction to the series was I remember renting Star Fox for the SNES back when I was a kid. It wasn't really my cup of tea. I didn't love the art style. And then whenever 64 came out, I played the mess out of that game, beat it 100 times, loved it because it launched with the 64. That was, I think, one of the only games I picked up out of the gate. Um, no, it didn't actually launch with the 64. Now that I'm thinking about it, because the 64 only had 3 launch
Mario.
titles. Mario 64, Pilot Wings, and I can't remember what the third one was, but it might have just been those two. Um, but anyway, Star Fox 64 came out, and I loved it, and so I went back a couple years after I got the 64 version, and I played through it, and I was like, hey, this is almost literally the exact same game. It's just obviously a rescan and upres version. I do think the 64 version is obviously um, the the better version of the game, but I appreciate it for what it was. The SNES version. I like the challenge of it. I like the archaic look, the polygonal triangles, and everything. It just looked like it literally. I mean, your X-wing or your whatever. I cannot remember exactly, but whatever your fighter was, it was just two triangles stuffed inside another shape, and then you had all of the same mechanics. You had your B bomb, you had your boost, you had your barrel rolls. What were you going to say?
Oh, so I'm a little confused. I'm on Wikipedia looking at the date. 1990, what was it, 7 for Star Fox 64.
Sure.
Uh,
93 for the first one.
yeah, but then there's this deal, latest release, Star Fox 2, September
Yep, Star
29th.
Fox Star Fox 2 was released. Okay, so that was a game that was being developed along back as a sequel to Star Fox, the original, and it was scrapped. It was generally canceled, even the game was almost entirely finished. And that's where the first original Star Fox and 64 differ, because what they did is they took ideas from the sequel and they rolled it into the remake, and
Mm.
those courses in the remake that involve like an arena where you're actually flying around and fighting are directly from the sequel. So it was released with the SNES Classic. That was the first time that the sequel to Star Fox proper had ever officially been released. You were able to find it and pirate it online, but you were never actually able to legally purchase and play the game until the SNES Classic came out, which would have been what, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, it looks like it was released for the Nintendo Switch on December 12th, 2019. So is this something that I'm gonna have to like?
You should give it a shot. It is a mixture of the what you know and love and what you appreciated from Mario, or not Mario, sorry, Star Fox 64, but in the older graphic package. It's not nearly as good. If you were to give your Star Fox a great or even a Gaga, you would
Mm.
give this one a gauche or even a maybe a good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I played it for about 30 minutes and I was just like, nah, I'll just go back to the original. It just doesn't work with its graphic style. So,
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you have more of a 3D playing field, not so linear and
yeah, but
forced.
it's with the images that you saw on the SNES, so it was not pretty, and
Okay.
not necessarily. It was rough. It was rough. But I agree with you. I think that Star Fox is a great game. I think that, like I said, 64, in my opinion, is a better version of almost the same game. But I do like both games a lot.
You don't have Hoppy.
They're all there. They're all there, except you just get some more annoying catchphrases from them because you actually have the voice acting. Do a barrel roll, stuff
Oh,
like that. So
going down, Star Fox.
yeah, Falco, I think his name
Oh,
is. It's
he's a
been a while since I
douche.
played. Yeah, he is a douche. But
I shoot him on
mine, and we'll make
purpose.
this one snappy. I know you appreciated this game, but I'm going to make this quick and simple. Mine is Halo 2 for the Xbox. Uh, I almost said Xbox One. The original Xbox. This came out November 9th of 2004, and it's just a continuation of Master Chief's war against the Covenant. Um, the reason I love this game
His
is
war, they started it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There were
Maybe.
along with the Covenant. My love for this game comes twofold. I enjoyed the break in the pace. In the original, you played exclusively as Master Chief. In this game, you break it up between playing as the Arbiter and Master Chief, and I like the character of the Arbiter, and I like the break as playing as a Covenant member, an alien race where you're able to cloak, and it just makes up the playstyles enough to make it fun, intuitive, and interactive, and exciting. Uh, the soundtrack, the bigger scale, I just loved it. Plus, they excluded any of the involvement of the Flood. For me, Halo, the original Combat Evolved, misses the mark every in every sense of the word up to the point where the Covenant gets involved, or not the Covenant, I'm sorry, the Flood gets involved. As soon as you start fighting those little alien bastards, it ruins that game for me. And it's the kind of game I'll play through the 60 or 70% of it that doesn't include those, and then I'll stop. And I hate that section. It becomes too chance. You can run blindly. Anyway, that's Halo 1. It sucks. I say sucks after the Flood. It specifically gets involved. Um, this game excludes that almost entirely, and it makes for a competent shooter through and through. And then the actual multiplayer maps are fantastic. The multiplayer modes are fantastic. It changed the game, it defined the game, and it's still building on that from there. Actually, as a series, Halo 1 and 2, in my opinion, are what holds the ground as being one of the best, and everything that we've had since has been kind of built from that. And we're still trying to get back to that original flow and feeling and thought based on what they did with Halo 3 and ODST and Reach and 4 and 5. I just don't think that they've ever gotten back to what the magic was for Halo 1 and 2. I know a lot of people love Halo 3. I personally hate it because I think the Brutes, as a villain, as an enemy, are just vastly superior to the Covenant themselves.
Yeah, why are they trying to replace the elites anyhow? But
That's what I don't get it. I understand they're trying to move the storyline along, but I know that there's some massive Halo nerds out there that love and appreciate the timeline and the storyline that goes along with Halo. But for me, those moments are vastly overrated and easily just pushed aside to move on to something more enjoyable, which is just the basics, the top notch uh, first person shooting, the top notch multiplayer, and then those couch co op moments where you're sitting there and you make your friends so mad that they punch your Xbox. Or you put a name in that just says something derogatory about one of your friends and he gets so mad that
well,
he
he's got to join the
quits.
server. He's got to
Yeah,
join it if he wants to play.
that's true.
I'll
And
tell you
it's
what
it's
was.
great.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the whole thing is just great.
I did have some fond memories of that. I think the thing that caught me for Halo 2, again, I have it on PC. But I mean, I played it on the Xbox. But the thing that I thought was cool was being able to dual wield, and then
Yeah,
not only dual wield, but mix and match what you have. So you could have a plasma pistol, charge that bad boy up, and either have like the 45 or the
the
SMG,
Needler.
drop their shields, and then hit them out with some projectiles.
Yep,
And I
that was great.
think, yeah, mixing up those, having those different strategies, those different combo aspects, depending on what you were fighting, I think added a little bit of flair to that game. And I really do appreciate that because there are other games that I played beforehand where you could dual wield, but you had same 45 Magnum, same SMGs, that kind of thing. And it's like, why would you carry? Give me some versatility here. Ooh, I can spin them sideways and do the horizontal shooting like I'm a gangster.
Right.
Give me something special. And I think that for me was a cool aspect that I found in Halo 2.
I completely agree with you. I think it's a gift that keeps on giving, and I think if they could somehow reintroduce a um, system that you could play as either I guess what I would say is tie all of the multiplayer together for Halo 1, 2, and 3 or something like that. I think it would make for a much more fulfilling package than what they've released with the Master Chief Collection, where it's all still broken up and you have to choose which
Yeah,
game's multiplayer you want to play.
I'd appreciate that. Just drop the multiplayer as far as competitive multiplayer. Keep the co-op going. But for the competitive multiplayer, yeah, just drop it for all of them, and there's just the multiplayer. I know some people would probably be upset because there's aspects of each game that are different, or different, different. They're different for everyone, but
Yeah, in
I
my
think it would
opinion, not
force the
different enough.
players. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would force the players to come together, so you'd have more of that combat stuff, and I do appreciate that. Hey, I don't like Halo 3. I think the textures are trash. I think the game style is dumb, and it's definitely built for bots. So
I agree. I didn't like the third one at all. I generally disliked. Halo 3 is the Resistance 2 of the Resistance trilogy. It's the odd man out. I don't think it worked. I don't think it played well. I think they tried to change too much whenever they already had such a solid foundation.
yeah,
So far be it for me to be too controversial, but that's where I
yeah.
stand.
I was like, she just pissed off a lot of people if they ever watched it,
That's
but
true. There are a lot of people out there that think that Halo 3 is the best of the best, and I just vastly disagree.
yeah, they just
So
score a little less on the ASVAB. That's all.
So, John, with that being said, that is going to do it for our episode, our broken episode of this week's of the Nobody Entertainment podcast. I know we had to pause a few times and had to kick it back into gear, but do you have any words of advice for us this week?
Yeah. If your lady wants you to travel a mile and a half back up the road and you're driving 12 plus hours to get back home because she wants Jimmy John's,
Just leave her there. Just leave her there. You want it so bad, you could walk.
you get her the sandwich,
Oh,
okay?
you
You
went a
lazy.
different route.
You get her the sandwich. I think she's still up. She can hear me.
For the name of love, you get her that sandwich. So, thank you, John,
Give
for
me the
joining me
foot
on
long.
episode 14 of the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. You guys just remember that you can be a nobody, and everybody is a somebody, and have a great week.
That's right. Give her the foot long.